In 2004, the most valuable entertainment franchise on Earth walked into Disney's headquarters and offered itself to them, Harry Potter. Warner Brothers wanted a theme park. Disney was the obvious partner, the only partner. Disney said no. 6 years later, 8 miles down the road in Orlando, Universal Studios opened the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. Attendance surged 30% in a single year. Adults cried in line. Disney's Epcot attendance dropped. And for the first time in 50 years, the most powerful entertainment company in human history wasn't first. This is the story of how Disney, $25 billion in revenue, 100,000 employees, a content library nations would have killed for, handed its enemy the weapon that ended its monopoly. Not in a boardroom war, not in a hostile takeover, in a meeting, by saying no to a door. They didn't think to lock. To understand what Disney became, you have to understand what Disney built. July 17th, 1955, Anaheim, California. Walt Disney opens a park unlike anything the world has ever seen. Not a carnival, not a fairground, not a collection of rides, a world. Disneyland is the first theme park in history to use narrative architecture where every ride, every building, every trash can exist inside a story. Walt called it the happiest place on Earth. He wasn't being whimsical, he was writing a manifesto, because Disneyland doesn't just entertain, it indoctrinates. Once you've been inside the Disney universe as a child, it stays with you forever. That is the business model, emotional monopoly. Disney sold a feeling so deep, so precisely engineered, that competitors couldn't replicate it. They tried. For 30 years they tried, and failed. Until one day, they stopped trying to replicate Disney and started doing something far more dangerous. June 7th, 1990, Universal Studios Florida opens in Orlando, 8 miles from Walt Disney World. Disney's internal reaction is the reaction powerful people always have to a new threat. They laugh. The early reviews are not kind, rides break down, lines are catastrophic. The park is half finished. Disney reportedly calls it an embarrassment. One executive, by legend, says Universal will be gone in 5 years. They aren't wrong to dismiss it. Universal's first year is an operational disaster. But here's the thing about underestimating a wounded competitor. Sometimes the wound makes them dangerous. Universal Studios Florida didn't come to compete with Disney on Disney's terms. They couldn't afford to, so they did something smarter. They started hunting for the one thing Disney could not manufacture, the one thing you cannot build with nostalgia and a castle: relevance. Steven Spielberg, Jurassic Park, the highest grossing film in history at that moment. And Universal has it, not just the film, the park experience. Because Universal had done something quietly brilliant in the years prior. They'd cultivated Spielberg, made him a creative consultant, gave him a stake in their future. And when Jurassic Park opened as a ride at Universal Studios Florida in 1996, it changed the equation. For the first time, there was something in Orlando that Disney didn't have, that Disney couldn't have. A living extension of the most talked about franchise in the world. Disney had Cinderella's castle, Universal had a T-Rex. Disney still dominated, still led in attendance, still commanded premium pricing, but something had shifted. The word Universal stopped being a punchline, and a new question entered the theme park industry for the very first time. What happens when Universal gets a franchise bigger than anything Disney currently owns? Nobody knew yet. The war had a second front, and it was invisible. While Disney dismissed Universal publicly, Universal was recruiting, quietly, deliberately, surgically. MCA, Universal's parent company at the time, understood something Disney refused to acknowledge. Disney's greatest asset wasn't its IP, it was its people, the Imagineers, the engineers, designers, and creative architects who had built the Disney experience from the ground up. Men and women who knew at a molecular level how Disney's magic actually worked, and one by one, Universal hired them. Former Disney Imagineers helped design Universal Florida's attractions. They brought the blueprint with them, not the rides, not the characters, the philosophy, the spatial logic, the emotional engineering. Disney had spent decades building the world's greatest theme park talent pipeline, and Universal had just turned on the tap. Patient, precise. And Disney, consumed by its own mythology, never saw it happening. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone has been in theaters for 3 years. 3 years of record-breaking box office. 3 years of cultural dominance that even the most cynical executive couldn't dismiss. Harry Potter isn't just a book series. It's a generation's mythology. The same way Star Wars was, the same way Mickey Mouse was, and Warner Brothers, holding the rights to the most valuable entertainment franchise on Earth, decides it's time to build a theme park experience. They have options. The obvious option, the natural option, is Disney. Disney is the undisputed world leader in theme park experiences. Disney has the infrastructure, the expertise, the audience. Warner Brothers approaches Disney. They say, "We have Harry Potter. We want to build something extraordinary." What happens next is the most expensive mistake in theme park history. Not because of the money, because of what it revealed, about who Disney had become. Disney said no, not explicitly, not immediately. But functionally, yes, no. The accounts vary in their details, but the shape of what happened is consistent across every source. Disney wanted creative control, total creative control. They wanted approval authority over every element of the Wizarding World experience. Warner Brothers and J.K. Rowling pushed back. These are our characters, our world, our rules. Disney's position was effectively, our park, our terms. And so the deal collapsed. Disney's executives walked away, believing they had leverage, believing that Warner Brothers needed Disney more than Disney needed Harry Potter, believing that any franchise, no matter how big, would eventually come crawling back. They were wrong, because there was another buyer in the room, quieter, hungrier, smarter. A company that had spent 15 years watching Disney, studying Disney's logic, waiting for exactly this kind of moment. Universal didn't pitch Warner Brothers. Universal listened, and then they said yes to everything. The deal was signed. Universal Studios would develop the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, inside Islands of Adventure in Orlando. J.K. Rowling was personally involved, not as a licensor, as a collaborator. She walked the park designs, she approved the architecture, she signed off on every detail, the butterbeer recipe, the wand shops, the skyline of Hogsmeade. This wasn't a licensing play, this was world building. And Universal understood something that Disney's arrogance had blinded them to. When you have the most beloved fictional universe of a generation, you don't slap a logo on a ride, you build the world so faithfully that people feel like they've crossed through the page. And when that happens, when someone stands in Hogsmeade for the very first time, they don't think about Universal. They think, I'm here. I'm actually here. That's not entertainment. That's religion. And Disney had just handed it to the enemy, June 18th, 2010. The Wizarding World of Harry Potter opens at Universal's Islands of Adventure. Lines stretch for hours. Adults who haven't cried in years cry in line. Children hold their parents' hands, trembling, before they walk through the gates. Universal Orlando's attendance surges by nearly 30% in a single year. The theme park industry has never seen a single attraction move numbers like this. Disney's Epcot attendance declines. People are choosing, for the first time, actually choosing Universal over Disney, not supplementing their Disney trip. Replacing it, the Orlando hotel market shifts. Travel agents report entirely new itineraries. The question used to be, how many days at Disney? Now it is, Disney or Universal. 2 syllables, Universal, and somewhere inside a boardroom with a castle logo on the wall, an executive opened a report, read the numbers, and felt something Disney executives hadn't felt in 50 years, fear. Inside Disney, the public response was measured. Executives acknowledged the Harry Potter opening, called it impressive, said Disney had its own plans, a roadmap, expansions, new attractions coming. What they didn't say, what the internal retrospectives and executive memoirs would later reveal, is that Disney was panicking. Because for the first time in 50 years, they were in a position they didn't recognize, second place. Not a comfortable temporary second place, a structural second place. Because Universal hadn't just built a ride, they had built a loyalty machine. People who went to the Wizarding World came back, year after year. Parents brought their children brought their own. The mythology machine that Disney had once exclusively owned, Universal had just replicated it. Not with fairy tales, with something the current generation loved more than fairy tales, with something Disney had been offered and refused. Disney's response was swift and expensive. 2006, Pixar, $7.4 billion. 2009, Marvel Entertainment, $4 billion. 2012, Lucasfilm, $4.05 billion. Star Wars, Indiana Jones, the most culturally loaded franchise in film history. Disney was buying back the future because Universal had proven something that could no longer be argued. IP was the only currency that mattered, not brand equity, not institutional nostalgia, the living, breathing franchise that today's generation actually cares about. Star Wars, Galaxy's Edge opened in 2019. Pandora, the world of Avatar in 2017. Billions spent, years of construction. And it worked, partially. Galaxy's Edge moved numbers, but it didn't replicate what happened in 2010. Nothing did. Because Disney was now playing catch-up in a game where the rules had been rewritten by their enemy, using the weapon Disney handed them. In a conference room in 2004, Universal opens Epic Universe, a brand new theme park in Orlando, not an expansion, not a new land inside an existing park, a full standalone destination at a cost of over $6 billion. Inside, a Ministry of Magic, Harry Potter's Paris, Nintendo World, the first Mario experience on the East Coast, How to Train Your Dragon, classic monsters, the Uncharted Landing. This is not a company that survived Disney. This is a company that studied Disney, learned from Disney, outmaneuvered Disney, and is now building the future of theme parks while Disney debates the roadmap. Epic Universe is projected to generate billions in annual tourism revenue for the Orlando region. It will permanently shift the market dynamics of the most competitive tourist destination on Earth. Disney World is still the largest theme park resort in human history, but for the first time, it has a real enemy, and that enemy is no longer afraid. Here's what the Disney Universal War teaches us. Not about theme parks, about power. The most dangerous threat is never the one that fights you on your terms. It's the one that waits, watches, recruits your people, studies your logic, and then takes the asset you refused and builds a weapon with it. Disney's fatal flaw wasn't poor strategy. It wasn't bad execution. It was certainty. The belief that being the biggest automatically made you the most valuable. The belief that any franchise, no matter how powerful, needed Disney more than Disney needed it. Universal was never trying to beat Disney. They were trying to find the one door Disney left unlocked. Harry Potter was that door, and the lesson applies everywhere. In business, in content, in every arena where power breeds complacency. The empire doesn't fall to the army at the gate. It falls to the competitor who finds the door you didn't think to lock. Classified, end of file.